Thank you for joining us today. Today's webinar, my name is Christina. I'm a member of Caucasus Editions editorial team. And today I'm with my colleagues and our authors who will be presenting their article and their research entitled The Property Restitution Process After the Second Karabakh War. Challenges and opportunities. I will quickly present first our speakers and Sevil, as well as the structure of today's webinar. I will start with the structure first. So the first 30-40 minutes will be for our authors and moderator to present and discuss together the article and the topic, and then the rest of the time, around 20 minutes, will be dedicated to the Q&A session. So please, we encourage you to submit your questions in the Q&A window that you can see on your screens, and then we will try to address as many questions as possible. So today I am with Eviya Hovhannisyan, who is an anthropologist, social anthropologist from Yerevan, and is a project coordinator at Heinrich Böll Foundation in Yerevan, the South Caucasus office. And Nika Musavi. Nika is a journalist, writer, and researcher specializing in migration and socio-cultural processes, as well as human rights and contemporary leftist movements. And the webinar will be moderated by my colleague, a member of Caucasus Editions editorial board, Sevil Husseinova. So now I want to ask Sevil, please start the webinar and the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina, for the introduction. Everyone, welcome to our webinar. Today, we are going to touch on a complex and yet very old topic. It goes back to the late 80s, when the first refugees from Armenia and Azerbaijan appeared. And later on, they were internally displaced people in Azerbaijan. Together with refugees, there were more than 750,000 people in Azerbaijan, almost 10% of its then population. 300,000 Armenians left Azerbaijan by the end of 80s. And for Armenia also, not everyone fled to Armenia, but it's almost 10% of its population. Many of them still live for many years in former dormitories, pioneer camps, sanatoriums. In Azerbaijan, at the end of the 2020s, the situation was improving. Many people received their own housing. Also, many still live in extremely difficult conditions. And the Second Karabakh War radically changed the situation. Now there are refugees from Karabakh and the 7 districts, adjacent districts to Karabakh in Armenia itself. In Azerbaijan, by contrast, the new situation has opened up some perspectives. So today we will discuss all these issues with our speakers, Eviya and Nika, and they actually co-authored the article with the title, The Property Restitution Process After the Second Karabakh War, Challenges and Opportunities. The link to this article we will put in the chatting box. And in the article, they touched upon the reparation assistance programs for those who lost their property after the Second Karabakh War in Armenia, Azerbaijan, and in unrecognized state through the lens of transitional justice. So this is a new approach which they researched and have written an article. And my first question goes to Eviya. And the question is, what about how one can address and deal with property rights and restoration through the lens of transitional justice. Is it possible to apply this approach in the context of the Karabakh conflict?
Thank you, Sabil. Thank you for inviting me to this discussion. And I was really very happy to do this research with Azerbaijani colleague. I think it was really important to show from different perspectives the property restitution issues for both Armenian and Azerbaijani sides. So regarding the question, it's quite hard because restitution of housing, land, and property related to forced displacement, war damage, and destruction is at the core of many political debates on transitional justice, affecting the actions of local governments, civil society, and international community. As you know, transitional justice is a process which responds to massive human rights violations through judicial redress, also political reforms in region or country, and other measures in order to prevent the recurrence of human rights abuse. So transitional justice is instituted at a point of political transition, classically from war to constructive peace, or more broadly from violence and repression to societal stability. And it is based on a society's desire to rebuild social trust, what we could also see in aftermath of Second Karabakh War, and also to re-establish a fractured justice system and build a democratic system of governance. The relationship between property rights and transitional justice is still very much evolving. The housing, land, and property norms upon which restitution rights for refugees and displaced people are based are found widely throughout international, regional, national, and other types of law. As well as within the legal articles of human rights law, humanitarian law, criminal law, and other types like civil law, constitutional law, etc. Some of the specific rights clearly enshrined within these articles include the right to voluntary return to one's country, the right to adequate housing, the right to be protected against forced eviction, the right to privacy and respect for the home, and the right to freedom of movement, of course. And we can apply this to Karabakh context as well from both sides, Armenian and Azerbaijani. For transitional justice to make a significant contribution to the transformation of property rights, a number of issues should be addressed. Because at one end of the range, we have elements that are difficult to really measure, like perceptions, impressions, feelings, sentiments towards own property, land, a home, etc. And on the other hand, we have more countable or physical realities of borders, security, infrastructures, physical resources, etc. And all these should be engaged with elements of legislation, policy, enforcement, through cadasters, register systems, titles, and these kind of bureaucratic structures. So it is interaction of all these elements in a highly volatile country situation that constitutes the area of transitional justice in the field of property rights. Therefore, while there might exist a common normative ground in international law on the right to remedy and reparation, the socio-political context of each country attempting to establish a reparations program should play a decisive role in shaping the conceptual framework upon which the program is based or was based. And this is really highly contested process through all these elements. Property rights are not easily actually changeable, manageable, reconfigurable components of social interaction. And on the contrary, property rights in the post-conflict period are quite complicated, contested, and often heavily burdened with historical baggage. What we can see also in Karabakh conflict context. And also property rights are deeply rooted in societal and political interactions. For example, after the First Karabakh War, the properties left vacant by those who had been forcibly displaced had been allocated mainly for the use of the Armenian refugees from Azerbaijan and also Karabakh Armenians as well. However, they were also given to those not necessarily displaced or local, but simply politically well-connected people like war veterans, the families of fallen soldiers, young families from Armenia who had good relations in some political circles, governmental circles. So it's therefore very difficult to unravel this tangled history of property rights after the First and Second Karabakh Wars, as it is intertwined with societal ties, multiple relocations of people, their sentiments, their feelings towards their property and home, nationalistic, very strong discourses in both societies, and also local understandings of the right to reparations for lost properties.
Thank you, Eviya. So, as I understood, this political transition is very important, yeah, for restoration programs and rights and restitution rights, and especially it's complicated and almost impossible on the borderlands, yeah, when without demarcation delimitation processes one just cannot even apply for these restitution rights, because it's impossible to indicate the area, yeah, the territories, which territory belongs to which state. So this is also one of the complicating aspect of this issue. But let's go to the existing, if they exist, of course, property restitution programs, yeah, social legal aspects of these programs in each country, and Karabakh itself, of course, after the Second Karabakh War. So what kind of state programs exist? Who are eligible for these programs? Forcibly displaced persons, IDPs, refugees. So how authorities actually working with them, and what about documents and status? So there are lots of questions which is we cannot touch upon of all of them, but can you please, you and Nika, and maybe start with Nika on existing programs in Azerbaijan, for instance.
Thank you, Seville. I should say that for me it's a new topic, totally new topic, so I learn a lot myself. Well, as Seville said, after the First Karabakh War, the people, displaced person, they were settled wherever it was, dormitories, some schools or kindergartens building, tent camps, etc. From approximately 2001, state figured it somehow and started to build houses, apartment for these persons. Some of them still didn't get something from the state, but bought an apartment themselves. Anyway, 30 years is a long time. And all this time, Azerbaijan was dreaming once we returned to Karabakh. But when it happened, well, let's say so, from 2016, I think there is some state program named Great Return. It appeared when this Great Return was just a kind of dream. Yeah, but now when this dream came true, it's my personal impressions. I feel it's like state kind of it's improvisation from their side. Well, we have this Great Return program, which no one seen, and in case of Azerbaijan right now, there's no question about property restitution. It's about homeland restitution. Because, well, now after this 30 years, most of these people have place to live. Maybe they got it from the state or about themselves somehow. There isn't any need for them to get some house from state and live there. For them and for state, it has some symbolic meaning. That's why they hardly will demand something, and even if they demand, they hardly get something. I mean, soon after the Second War ended, this State Committee for Works with Refugees and Displaced Persons, they conduct a poll among displaced persons to learn do they want to return. And approximately 70% told that yes, we wanted to return to Karabakh. And after this, they were asked about the property they left. Some of them were asked, was asked, some not, but still they were asked about their houses, their everything, gardens, furniture, even. But as it's seen for now, state government planned to rebuild Karabakh totally, and doesn't matter if you have some to stored house with 20 acres of cherry trees or something, but you will get something what the state will give you. Now really there isn't a question about property restitution to compensate these people some property they lost, but it's about starting from the scratch. Just and it's I speak in terms of maybe it seems, but it really seems, because the key for us in all the situation is nothing is clear, because I mean, everybody, journalists, displaced persons themselves, everybody, we have very little of information. We almost we know almost nothing, except some promises of governments that everything will be great, will be fancy, and the first some real precedent is the Agali Smart Village, built in Zangezur, which was settled in the end of July this year. As it's promoted as a smart village, very fancy one. In fact, it for now it consists from 200 cottages, totally identical. That's yeah, of course, the people who lived in Agali in late 80s, they didn't have these identical houses. But now they got these identical houses plus 9 acres of influx. Approximately 40 families moved there in the end of July, and some people will move soon as well. Well, as some example, we have this village. And the example of this village, it proves one more that doesn't matter what did you have before, now you will have something new. And it isn't about state would like to return you something you lost. No, just we started from the scratch and it will be totally new story.
Yeah, thank you, Nika. So this great return program itself is also kind of a restitution program, but it's in the progress, yeah, right now. There are lots of questions how it's going on and what people are thinking about this, but we will come back to this.
Sorry.
We will speak about the people later. Maybe we will, right now we will speak to, let Eviya talk about about the existing programs in Armenia and in Karabakh, and then we will come back to this issue as well. Yeah? Or you want to add something
No,
related?
I think I will add. Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Nika.
Yeah. Actually, in Armenia, before Second Karabakh War and shortly after the revolution, there have been, Migration Service of Armenia started kind of a program to provide some funding to refugees from Azerbaijan who have lived in dormitories for 30 years. Some funds so they can buy some apartment for them apartments in Yerevan or not only in Yerevan, other territories of Armenia as well. But this has been, I think, stopped just with the Second Karabakh War, and at the moment I do not have updates on this, whether they are continuing or not, this program. But also regarding the restitution programs that we have after Second Karabakh War, I would like to mention several bureaucratic issues that exist regarding the compensation to the people who lost their properties in Karabakh and around, the territories that Karabakh lost after Second Karabakh War. First issue relates to the transfer of the territory, right, from one state entity to another, which raises the rhetorical question of who is obliged to compensate for the lost property to the displaced population from these territories. The losing side or the winning side, or probably the third side, let's say Russia, yeah, because Russia was involved in this conflict too much. So the Second Karabakh War brought into focus the return of Azerbaijan displaced persons from the late 80s and early 90s, as Nika mentioned, who, according to the statements of President Aliyev, should return to their homes in the recaptured territories. Here we can see how tangled and how complicated is this issue. We can see several layers of refugees from late 80s, early 90s, new refugees after Second Karabakh War, these old refugees who can return to this recaptured territories, etc. And who is responsible to decide who is compensating to these people. The second issue that I would like to mention regarding these compensation programs is linked to a number, to the status of Nagorno-Karabakh and the citizenship of people living there. Because you know that Armenians who live in Nagorno-Karabakh, they have Armenian citizenship with the Republic of Artsakh residency indication in their passports. And this is also not full citizenship of Armenia because they do not have the right to vote in Armenia. Yeah. So the Republic of Artsakh, or the Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, a state with no international recognition, could not provide documents on property rights to its residents who have been de jure citizens of the Republic of Armenia. Here we can see this documentation issue of the property and also the people who own this property. And also I would like to mention one more problem which relates to the development of the Republic of Artsakh, yeah, and its assistance programs in Nagorno-Karabakh for Armenians displaced as a result of the Second Karabakh War. Because here we can see the issue of defining this program. Because Armenian or Nagorno-Karabakh authorities used to call it as a compensation program for the lost property, or yeah, but actually it's not a compensation. It's formally it's just assistance program to the people who has lost their houses or land plots or other movable or immovable properties. So there we see how neither of the sides, conflicting sides, are interested in calling the humanitarian assistance provided to the displaced people as a compensation, because compensation is given by one who takes responsibility for starting the conflict, right? So the announced programs are therefore victim assistance programs, just not reparation programs for lost property. Moreover, the Armenian side has not granted any status to displaced people, which makes it impossible for them to receive any assistance outside of Nagorno-Karabakh. The main purpose of this is a policy of keeping the population in Nagorno-Karabakh, which is what the assistance programs aim for, so that as many Armenians as possible remain on this territory. These are the main issues of these programs. But overall, there are these financial assistance programs. They exist in Karabakh after the Second Karabakh War. They are relatively systematic and they are funded by the the Republic of Armenia, the Artsakh government or Nagorno-Karabakh government, and also the All Armenian Fund. So yeah, this is the current situation.
Thank you, Eviya. So you touched on challenges, yeah, bureaucratic challenges institutional challenges of this issue. And my question will be the next question will be about those who actually should gain and should have access to these rights, restitution rights, to those who fled, IDPs or forcibly displaced people. And my question to Nika, how people actually perceive this situation. I mean, this program of Great Return in Azerbaijan, as we know that during 30 years, there is a generation, a new generation who were born in post-conflict time, and they might have no attachment to these lands and to this territory. What about the young people? Are they going to use this opportunity and to go to their homeland? Or yeah, what is the situation about the people? Yeah, who are willing to go there? Who are those 75% you mentioned? Yeah.
Yeah, speak about people. I see here a big gap between dreams and reality, because all these 30 years and even during the Second War, everything told that, well, war will finish and they will go to the Karabakh right after this. And when I talk with young people or people who left Karabakh and being 8, 9 years old, or even elder people, they, of course, they remember some, we have such a house, such a yard, and some apple tree, and we have some river, and we walk there, etc. And they, even elder people and people who has some childish memory about Karabakh, they wanted to return there, to the place which doesn't exist anymore, because 30 years passed and everything changed. Some houses are ruined, something, and state will rebuild Karabakh totally, and some villages will not exist anymore, because small villages will be united with in something big. So now when people realized that they can't return to the same yard with the same apple tree, they're confused, of course, and they don't know what state can suggest them now. And yeah, as you said, new generation grew up. It's someone who left Karabakh in 10, now he or she is 40, and they get used to city life. They know nothing about village life, especially if they lived in Baku or Sumgait, for example. Still, they said that they want to return and hope that there will be some work for them, because as I know, state planned to develop mostly agriculture sector in Karabakh, but the people for some high education, they still hope that they can do something after this return. And I remember one young man, let's so 30 something years, musician who had a dream. He wanted to return to, I forgot the region, but yeah, to his homeland and open some school and teach music for children. Some woman who is journalist, and well, she doesn't want and can't be involved in some agriculture sector, but she still hopes that, well, maybe there will be some newspaper or something and I will work there. So at least, yeah, people with whom I talk, they say, young people and middle-aged, they say that they would like to return, but they were confused in which place they will live if they return, what will they do there? Because as I said, there are a lack of information and nobody knows which place it will be, because yes, it isn't that Karabakh which they left. It isn't that Karabakh they dreamt about all these 30 years. It will be something totally new, and most likely it will be kind of showcase for Azerbaijan, because yeah, states, presidents and governments, they said that we will do all the best to make this region fancy, the best in South Caucasus, but still it isn't that place. So yeah, they we can tell elder people, young people, middle-aged people, they would like to return, but they don't want to wear. And just in fact, everybody realized that it's a new story. It's a new story, and how it will be, nobody knows.
Yeah, thank you, Nika. Of course, there are lots of different stories and different cases. Yeah, lots of families which grew up since 30 years. So there are some cases when inside one family there will be property rights issues. It's, of course, this is also a challenging point when it comes to property rights. At the other side, this program is not actually very, let's say, flexible, because as President Ilham Aliyev mentioned, that these villages and these houses, newly reconstructed, built houses, they will be not summer houses for these people. So one should choose between city, living in city and living in village, living in the city. So this is not a kind of flexible, and not all of them will get back their property. So this is
yeah, thank you. I forgot this point. Yeah, they should sign the agreements that they will live there permanently, not use as a summer house or rent or something, because state government need to settle this place, need people to live there and work on all this agro hubs, airports, etc. So yeah, they should choose, and that's why maybe if this young people who already have their own life, work, etc., in Baku or in Sumgait or somewhere, if they have to choose, most likely they prefer to stay in Baku. And yeah, and their parents, well, they can move, but still, if they have something to do there.
Okay, yeah, so there are lots of questions to this issue.
So everything's questioned.
Yeah, yes. And now, Eviya, can you please address this question about how people perceive, and maybe some stories you mentioned in your article?
Yeah, actually, as I mentioned, these assistance programs have been initiated from April 2021. Artsakh or Nagorno-Karabakh government, according to this program, should have been providing housing to displaced people. And that's why the fund has been formed, according to which around 1,200 flats should have been built in Stepanakert, and the construction of at least 20 new residential districts in the rural areas of Nagorno-Karabakh was started. And people were really waiting, registering in this huge queues to get their kind of support or property from a Nagorno-Karabakh government. There are a lot of issues connected with this. That's why people are really not so happy how this assistance program go on. Especially, there are a lot of cases when gendered inequality is visible in these assistance programs. For example, if the property has been registered on the name of men in the family, and the marriage has not been registered, as it's a usual case for rural settlements in Armenia, that the marriages are not officially registered, and this man is missing during the war, or he died during the war, it means that the wife should go to the court and prove that she has been married to this man, and she also can get some assistance from the state. Or there is another case when, for example, the family husband is a deserter and is under the kind of court sue, yeah. His close family members cannot get any assistance from the state, like wife, children cannot get any assistance. And of course, this makes a lot of trouble and a lot of anger between among population and among displaced people, that they cannot, they should go to courts, they should wait for months, for years, because there are huge queues now in Karabakh courts waiting. I mean, people are really waiting. They do not know the procedures. They do not have a lot of documents of registration of their property, for example, because they wanted to evade taxation before the war. And for example, a lot of people cannot get any assistance because their land plots, their animals, nothing has been registered. And of course, this makes people angry. This makes people leave this land, I mean Karabakh, and to go to for more stable or more safe places to live. And one more thing is that people, of course, understand that the government in Nagorno-Karabakh at the moment cannot really guarantee their safety and guarantee that their property would not be lost again. And all this makes huge frustration among these people.
Thank you, Eviya. And now we open the floor to our audience, and they can raise questions to our speakers. And one question we already have from Onik. Yeah, he has a very interesting question, saying that according to Article 7 of the November 2020 ceasefire agreement, yeah, refugees and IDPs were mentioned as well. So their resettlement, their return would have to be actually supervised by UNHCR. And his question is, have you spoken to UNHCR and to clarify this issue? Yeah, what is happening now? Are they going to deal with this question or not? Eviya, maybe you can say something.
Actually, I did not talk to UNHCR regarding the safety and I don't know, also the support for refugees or DPs to return to their homes. But I would also like to mention here one very important point that is not spoken a lot in our societies, that even when Aliyev assures that refugees can safely return to these territories, nobody speaks about that the men who will return to this to their houses and who used to serve in army and used to participate in a war will be blamed or will be as they will be blamed as war as how it's called, военные преступники, military criminals, and they will go to the jail in Azerbaijan. So this also should be mentioned when we speak about return of refugees or DPs to these lands, because yeah, I think it's understandable that these men who participated against Azerbaijani government or Azerbaijani state, they are of course criminals. I mean,
yeah,
for Azerbaijani state.
Yeah, you are right, Eviya. The issue of combatants is not addressed yet. And this is a very big issue, because according to Azerbaijani law, they are criminals. And so this issue should be also addressed in all negotiation process, of course. Thank you for your talk. And I'm just we don't have any other questions. So don't you think that these IDPs, I mean people who forcibly displaced from these territories, they are just on their questions, and the questions of the property rights are addressed, but those who are refugees, so those who lost their property back in 80s, yeah, in the end of 80s, meaning Azerbaijanis in Armenia and Armenians in Baku, they are just pushed back. Yeah, and no one is talking about this category of people. So we have only, I mean, there are some discussions, but about the IDPs, but nothing said. I never, since the Second Karabakh, the end of the Second Karabakh War, I haven't seen any mentioning of this category of people. What do you think about this issue? Are you aware of this situation with this category?
Actually, yeah. Nika, please.
No, sorry. Yeah, you are right. I haven't heard something about this as well, and I think there is a question about this category of people, and not speak about compensation from whom. As I told you, Armenia won't be compensate them something, and they do not have the place to return. And the question of these persons, I think, of refugees, it's closed years ago, as I see. Nothing new and nothing will change.
Yeah, in Armenia as well, actually, this first refugee wave has been somehow pushed back. And this new wave is more, at the moment, more important. And it's understandable because at the moment we have really issue of safety, first of all, life and overall safety of Karabakh people on the territory of Karabakh, and also displaced people who stayed in Karabakh. So first of all, Armenian state, or I don't know, Armenian government, Nagorno-Karabakh government should solve this people's issue, their living issues, and then probably only the issues of old refugees. I mean, these old refugees.
Thank you. And we have also the question about the Sargsyan and Chiragov case, back in 2015. And the European Court of Human Rights, they supported this this issue, and the question is, was this actually these cases actually have they impact on the ground, and are they, this is a precedent to addressing other similar issues in our countries?
Actually, I think these kind of cases, they are of course important, but as they took very long time, a lot of work, I'm kind of skeptical that many displaced people will apply to this program. It really takes a lot of resources and efforts, and it has been also, of course, used by our governments to sue each other in the European Court, right? This is kind of a more cases for show rather than in a reality changes lives of thousands, hundreds of thousands people. So,
and anyway, both of governments ignore the results. So
okay, we have the next question from Stefan Meissner, and the question is how the question of property rights can contribute to the further development of a universal concept of transitional justice if there are mostly very local and national challenges on this issue to be clarified. What can we learn from this case with regard to the further development of the whole concept? Eviya, you actually touched a little upon this question at the just at the beginning. Maybe you can elaborate more.
Yeah, actually, the Second Karabakh War crisis exposed the fact that the lack of a legal basis for documentation, the impossibility to apply international law, and the many shortcomings of the bureaucratic systems in both countries deeply complicate this compensation or property restitution programs. Actually, as I mentioned in the beginning, this should be this multi-level approach should be taken into account while trying to apply this property restitution programs to these very specific cases, and also in a case of international law and how we apply transitional justice to property restitution should take into account all the specific details that we can find on the places. As I mentioned, there are issues regarding the war, deserteers, or unregistered marriages. I mean, there are a lot of small, tiny cases which really complicated people's lives and make it even more hard in this very difficult situation. So I think this transitional justice should have been somehow applied with its multiple instruments to solve these people's problems. But of course, it will take a lot of time. It will take a lot of, I don't know whether our countries have as much resources at the moment, because even this transitional justice does not happen actually in our country, I mean, in Armenia. So to hope that it will be applied in a property restitution process, it will take probably decades.
Thank you, Eviya. We have just our time is running out, and I take only the last question from Nona, addressing to Nika. Why the government is not flexible about the return of local people back to Karabakh as Dachniki? Yeah, what is the official explanation?
The explanation is quite simple, because their government spent a lot of money for rebuild this region, for building the houses, infrastructure, etc. And they need people to live there and to support the life in this region. And they don't spend all this money just for summer vacation of people who will live and work in Baku. They invest this money in region and in people.
Thank you, Nika. And actually, we have also 2 minutes, so maybe we will also Onyx last question, and I think this question regards to Eviya about the precedents, about the other precedents on this issue. For example, are there any other examples of property restitution rights and how it was addressed in the post-conflict situations or post-war situations?
Yeah, I think the question is quite complicated. There are these kind of cases, not only in Cyprus, but also in Kosovo case. I mean, I thought that there should be these kind of discussions, at least also in Abkhazian case, also with regard of other conflicting territories. But at the moment, I would not mention any, because I do not have any information on this.
Okay, so there are lots to work further and lots to research, because this is a quite new topic. I would say that it was not so easy for our authors, co-authors to work on this issue, because everything is very unclear, fresh, and somehow even governments who are working on these programs, they are not, for instance, applying to those people who should actually also should be involved into the process, process of discussions with them, because the people will be living there, and there is no interaction between governmental programs and the people who will be living on the ground. So there are many issues which are not addressed, and I hope we will come to these issues maybe in our next webinars. We have monthly webinars, sometimes even twice a month. So thank you for all of you. Thank you, Eviya and Nika, and thank you for our public. And we had very interesting questions. It's unfortunately that we couldn't address all of them, but I think that looking at this chat box, we can have impressions of how important this issue, how important this problem is. Thank you very much again, and hopefully we see you on our next webinar. Thank you.